Welcome to Your Wealthy Self with me, Regina Martinelli. This show is about money and a whole lot more. Here, we focus on you being able to expand your capacity for money, success, abundance, and inner wealth. And for you to have what's most important to you so that you can be your wealthy self both on the inside and on the out. Today, in today's show, I'm very excited about it, is one of those days where we get to talk about the whole lot more. Today, our topic is women's sovereignty and why it's important. And for those of you who may not be familiar with this topic, what I mean, generally it's about having your authority over yourself, over your life, and how you choose to create it. You don't have to people please or prove your worth or that you're deserving of something in order to have what you most desire. Your self-sovereignty is your birthright. And this is very important to know about yourself, because it keeps you from checking outside of yourself for permission to express who you are, to speak up, to be successful for you, and to take the path that no one else wants you to take for their reasons. It's about you doing what makes you happy without excuses or worrying how it's going to upset someone who thinks you're being too much of something or not enough of something else. Self-sovereignty is about you aligning with the truth of who you are, and only you know what that truth is. No one else gets to tell you, because self-sovereignty is your birthright. And we're going to talk about all that today and more with my fabulous guest, Karina Trowbridge, who's an expert divorce guidance coach. I have been looking forward to this conversation ever since she said yes to coming on the show. Karina makes divorce better by helping women navigate the chaos of a high-stakes divorce. She's been, let's say, conflict curious for decades, starting when she was a prosecuting DA, and now she's taking all of that experience and her years of conflict resolution training to help clients create strong boundaries with those high conflict spouses or partners and get out of the fight or flight experience that happens in unsafe conditions, as well as helping her clients get a strong sense of themselves as they embrace their newfound independence and lead a secure and fulfilling life on their own terms. I wish I had had her expertise when I was getting divorced 10 years ago. What a difference that would have made to my self-confidence and clarity in navigating my boundaries and my self-sovereignty. So Karina, let's pull you up. So hello, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Regina. I love this show. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad. So talk to me about how you define sovereignty with the work that you do and anything you want to say about that.
I love what you said about your personal sovereignty is your birthright, because I feel like that's just something that we need to just breathe in sometimes and just sit with what that even means. And sometimes when we're in a difficult relationship, we can lose sight of that. And so for me, what personal sovereignty really means is that I can have my own life, my own beliefs, my sense of reality. I can put myself first in living the life I choose to live and my sense of the world around me, and then go from there.
Awesome. So in your opinion, your experience with the women that you deal with and helping them navigate this path coming from coupledom into singledom, what are some of the hardest things that they face going through that transition?
Yeah. So going from coupledom to singledom, it can be very easy, right? It can be very easy and very amicable. And why shouldn't it be? Of course, right? And sometimes it's not. And there can be a number of reasons why. The area that I most work with is when we're trying to kind of extricate ourselves out of maybe an unsafe situation or a very high conflict situation where what you're teaching is really important, because we need to kind of work on the current dynamic. That's where we actually realize that there is a high conflict situation, and then do all the things that you teach in visualizing what the dynamic is that you want, and then taking steps to safely get to that place.
Thank you. It's so necessary because a lot of times we don't really know how to get there. We're so overpowered by all the emotion because there is a place, I'll say for myself, in having to mourn the dream of what that coupledom was,
Yeah,
even if I realize it's not the thing, it's not the dream for me more, or it's not the right recipe, right? There's
right.
still the mourning of what I came into it with, and that can make it hard to kind of find my boundaries or even pull in that fight or flight response of like, oh, what a jerk, and or oh my god, I'm just not even going. I'm going to run away, and you can have everything, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You bring up a really good point, and that is the kind of emotional aspect of the divorce process, because there's many aspects of the process, and that emotional aspect of it is, I think, the part that might take us away from living from our place of personal sovereignty or full self-expression or authenticity. And what is important about the work that you're doing and I'm doing also is that it's possible to have a life parallel to process. And yes, that will include the ups and downs, the call it the roller coaster of emotions in divorce. And we can be really afraid of that part of the process. And what I've learned is that there's a lot of books about this too, but what I've learned is those ups and downs are what make us human. And when we actually feel those emotions, it gives us a lot of really important wisdom to where we are, where we want to go, and how to get there. It's true. The best way to get there. What is it? The best way to get there is go through. What is that one?
Yeah.
That's really true. And so I think you also brought up fight or flight. And so if we can find a way to sit with our emotions during the process them in real time, or put them in the parking lot for a moment and do the part of the divorce that needs to get done and then come back to them later, and be, as I say, in rapport with ourselves during that process, then that need to go to the like unconscious or automatic fight or flight part is lessened. We don't need to do that as much. And that's something I know that you work with, and I work with that as well, because that's a harder place to be in the world.
Right, absolutely. And it's such a, as people know who've seen this show and yourself as well, creating with your background, that fight or flight is so instinctual and it just takes over. It's that critter neurology, that reptilian brain. And sometimes it just grabs hold and runs because of the seniority it has over our cerebral cortex, which is our rational brain. So we do crazy things, we do things that aren't useful or helpful for what we're trying to navigate. Let me ask you, there's something that you said that I think is really important because we're very, very clear. Like, I'm sure, I don't want to assume, but I'm clear that majority of us have had an experience of the critter brain taking over. What we may not have had an experience of is rapport with self. Now, talk to me a little bit more about that. I know what that is. I want you to share with the audience because coming from you and how you see it in your work is going to be so beneficial.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you. So, as you said, when we're in the fight or flight response, it's critter brain. Critter brain is focusing on just a few things: blood pressure, respiration, heart rate of its own human. And from that place, we can't even see somebody else. So it's not only important for us to be in rapport with ourselves, which I'll get to in a minute, but for our partner to be in rapport with themselves so they can see another person. When we can move up to the upper regions of our brain, we can have compassion, maybe, we can even compromise, maybe. So it's important for us, but also it's really important for the person that we're trying to co-parent with or, go through this process with. And how I describe rapport with self is simply this: I have good parts and bad parts about me. I know that. And I have okayness about that. And I literally will, if I'm going into a meeting with somebody where there may be conflict, I will literally just sit there for a second and say, I'm actually making sure I'm in rapport with myself. I have okayness about all the things that are running in the background. For purposes of this conversation in particular, I'm going to establish rapport with this other person. That means I'm going to have okayness about the good parts and the bad parts of that person for purposes of having this conversation. And my belief is when we do that, those mirroring neurons can literally feel that, and we get their attention. It's like an acknowledgement. It's like a little bit of mirroring. And then that person can feel free to be in rapport with themselves. When we intend to do that, and there's a couple other little tricks to doing that, not tricks, but there's other ways to create rapport with someone. You may even see that person kind of just exhale a little bit. And that's your indication that, okay, critter brain knows they're safe, and they can be with you, be in rapport with themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So, and thank you for that. Because part of my question was, how do we get from the fight or flight into rapport with ourselves when we're caught in that kind of cycle and this like checking in with your okayness? So let's dig into dig into the topic of okayness, because again, this may be new to the audience of what is okayness and how do you know when you're including it and doing it?
Oh my God, I love talking about this. Okay.
I know. I'm so excited to have fun. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna be like sisters here.
Okay. So I'm having a conversation with somebody who maybe I don't want to live with anymore. So it's not that we're making friends. It's not that we're having a loving relationship. It's not even acknowledgement. It's not even, it's none of those things. It's just
not even appreciation either. It's not appreciation.
No, it's not. And it's just okayness, which is okay with that, what is. That which is. What is happening now is what's happening now. And having okayness about that, or let's see if I can say it better. Yes, I have some issues with some of the things that you've done or said. I'm leaving, and that's why I want to leave. Or you've said that you want to leave. I can, for purposes of this conversation, have okayness about the way things are so that you're not feeling super judged or criticized by me, which will surely put you into fight or flight, especially if we have some dynamic and patterning that's been created in our relationship. And so it may even, and I really truly believe that mirroring neurons sort of get it, that like there is an intentionality around okayness and then establishing rapport. Okay, I'm just going to have okayness with where we are right now. Not that I'm okay with it staying this way, but I'm having okayness about it so that we can have this conversation from a place of rapport so that we don't have to feel unsafe and go to fight or flight, so that we may actually get something done in this conversation. Because what I often tell my clients is, if someone is in fight or flight, it's really no use talking to them. It's better to make an excuse and try again later. You can say, thanks a lot for trying to have the conversation. Let's try to have it again. Doesn't seem like the best time to be having the conversation. Thanks anyway, we'll try later. But there really isn't any use forcing a conversation, no matter how important it is, because once somebody goes into fight or flight, as we said, it's really all about that person, and they can't really see or compromise or have compassion for someone else.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Thank you. Let me see if I can give an analogy that
Please.
fits for your okayness.
Thank you.
So, yes. No, it's great. So it's kind of like there's paint on the wall. I may want to repaint the inside of my house, but I'm actually in a place where we're going into winter, and I'm not going to take everything off the walls, and because there's no place to put my stuff outside while we paint and do all this stuff. So I am okay with it being this color for another season. Like, I don't have to suddenly judge into all this stuff, but for a moment, for me to sit back and look around, I can be, okay, this is what it is for now, for the next season. And after that, I can then do what I need to do to take steps to change it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about it, even with a parent that might be a difficult parent or a difficult friend, if just
Like,
for a moment, and how we approach those conversations, we're already defensive, we're already ready to attack. When we can just kind of let that go, that person can feel that. They can feel that that feels different engaging in a conversation with us. So, whatever that is that allows you to, for now, take all those things that you know to be true and just set them over here for purposes of this conversation, it's a noticeable difference for the person that you're having the conversation with.
oh, that's so great. And
It
here's
is
the
kind of like saying, you're not the right color paint, but if we keep on working on this, either I can get a new color paint or maybe you'll change colors. It's something like that. But right now it's not right, but we're going to take some steps, and the only way to do that, I think, is creating that rapport between the two people.
yes, that's so great. And there's something I want to add in just from my own experience that I think might be helpful. So when you say like setting all that stuff aside for the conversation, you can find a dear friend, someone you trust, and be like, I'm about to have a conversation with, this person who I'm separating from, and I don't want to carry in all this anger I have, all this hurt, all this upset. I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to hold for me. And your friend pretends like she's a basket and goes, give it to me. And you say, I hate this. I hate this. I'm pissed off about this. I'm upset about this. It hurts my feelings and I'm done here. And your friend goes, great. I'm going to hold on to this for you. So if you want it back, you can have it back after the conversation, but just know it's safely held over here. So I've done that before. And then it's like, oh, I am now freed up, like what you were saying, to be in okayness and rapport with this other person. And I'm not trying to shove this other feelings down to these valid experiences I had to be like, okay, I'm okay. Like a serenity now. I don't have to fight myself to get to a place. I can actually hand it off to someone. And if you don't have someone, you can write it down and even put it in your eyeglass case because then it's held in a little spot and you're like, there it is. And when I want this back, I'll pick it back up. I'll put it back in my pocket. I'll read it and be like, that's right. I've never had to ask for my stuff back because I can always access it. But there's a place of, it feels energetically, you set it over there. It has a place of respect and dignity. So you're not having to invalidate your experience or what's been going on so that
Yeah.
you can actually be with someone.
And I think what's so good about it is that you have gone from an unconscious place in that conversation to a very conscious place. And it's like a lot of what you do is about visualizing things and like setting up what it is somebody wants. So it has a lot to do with that. It has a lot to do with like having some intentionality around the conversation and bringing it to a conscious level. So it's not the same old unconscious stuff that comes up every time, which is why it never works. Yeah.
Right. Oh, it's so beautifully said, Karina.
We need to teach this in high school. This needs to be like, right? This needs to be like what we learn when we're young. And I don't know why we haven't done that, but this is really a big part of, I think, our evolution as humans.
Right. Because it's not just around divorce, it's also conflict
Right?
resolution in
Absolutely.
any situation. And it's also to your tying this back to self sovereignty, when you can remove all that emotion that takes you out of your conscious brain, like you're saying, bring back to consciousness, you set it aside. You're like, okay, I'm conscious again. I know my boundaries. I also know how I can hold space for what the intent of this conversation is. And I know when I need to leave it because it's not working because
Right.
the other person or someone's gotten
Absolutely.
into fight or flight. So
Absolutely. And
beautiful.
yeah, and we're not establishing rapport with someone who's physically assaulted us, right? We're not establishing rapport with someone when there's absolutely no point to it. But if you're dealing, let's say in my world, you're dealing with a co-parent who is parenting in a way that is pretty clearly not a shared vision by both parents, and there's going to be a conversation about parenting or maybe about something totally different. Sometimes for purposes of that conversation, because you have your eye on the ball of the thing that you do want, right? The vision, the thing that you do want, for purposes of that conversation, we can just let that kind of go to the side, just have okayness about everything, knowing that when we do that, the other person can feel that, appreciate the appreciation of just not being in judgment or criticism, and actually get our attention about the thing that we actually want to talk about. And I have something called rapport with boundaries, which I work with somebody named Bill Eddy, who's the like premier expert on separating from a high conflict person. And he has something called BIFF, which is BIFF, is brief, informative, friendly, but firm.
Wait, let's just say it again.
Yeah, yeah,
Brief,
brief.
informative, friendly, and firm. Oh, I like that. You could probably work with children.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think it works with anybody where you're kind of having a push and pull with someone. And rather than having a 2 hour conversation about it that won't really get anywhere, you can write an email or have your very brief 10-minute conversation in a biff kind of way. I do a lot of biffing of my clients' emails, and they'll send me something and say, "Is this biff enough now?" And so I've combined biff with a little bit of NLP or neuro linguistic programming to create some ways we can have languaging to kind of like get through the stuff, the quagmire of stuff that stops us from having a productive conversation with boundaries in mind. And then to your point, Regina, if in that conversation it's just not possible to do it without a severe reaction, some kind of conflict, some kind of fight or flight, then the consequences, and Bill Eddy always says that if somebody is being really high conflict, the only real antidote to conflict that we know of is consequences. So the consequence is the conversation's over.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's very powerful, right?
Yeah, it actually really is. And that could be a text conversation, an email conversation, or phone or in person. If it gets ramped up to a certain level, then there's no response necessary. And that's how we end the conversation. As opposed to what we always want to do, which is
Yes, and poke the bear.
one more, right? One more. And there have been many opportunities lately, I've noticed with my clients, to stop, and they've kept going. And it was able to show them like that one was too much. And now you see what it invited, right? And so that's the consequence sometimes that we need to do when we've tried to be in rapport and take a step toward what we want, because sometimes it's just steps, baby steps. And when that doesn't work, then it's best to disengage.
Right.
Sometimes.
And we're running out of time, but I want to ask this quick question if you can't answer it.
Yeah.
When you do this enough with a high conflict person, you then start to train them that there's no prize for doing what they do, right? Like, does it help to curb
So
their
nicely said.
what?
There's no prize.
Yeah.
It never really feels good when we engage and argue and go and respond in like kind. There's really no benefit to doing that. And in the end, yeah, and that's not our personal sovereignty, responding in that way. We're not actually responding in an authentic way when we do that, and that's why it doesn't feel good. There was something else I was going to say about that.
Can you hold that for our next show?
You got it.
Cool. Oh my gosh, Karina, we could talk for hours. Exactly. And we're going to carry on this conversation over into next week. So make sure you watch the next week's episode. We'll going to go through divorce, needing firm boundaries, from whether it's coworkers, bosses, siblings, or relatives. You're going to want to hear what Karina has to say. Thank you, Karina, for being here with us today. It's been amazing, and I can't wait to continue. You can find Karina at, I'm going to put up her website here, karinatrowbridge.com. And if you have gotten anything out of today's show, please share it. There's enough fear in the world, so let's create more joy. Please send your questions or comments to me here at Your Wealthy Self at e360tvlive.com. I love and adore you. You are incredibly beautiful and precious beings. And please know you are just enough as you are. We will see you here next week.